there, and welcome to the Eerie World's Rogues Gallery podcast. I'm AvidEmma, and I'm here with AvidJoe.
Hello, champions.
And we're here to talk about Wretched Mortals, which we've been having a lot of fun with lately.
Wretched Mortals is I'm slowly being weaned off Grimbold and Cryptozoology, and Wretched Mortals is now, I'm being consumed by the awesome stories. I'm really excited for this next episode.
This was my Zenithil plan.
Yeah, it's all the plan, yeah.
So this time around, we are looking at dead letters, which is just... I thought I was be clever with this title, but now I'm like, I don't know if that works. But I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it. So today we're looking at people who communicated with or spoke with the dead. And as we said, the great thing about Wretched Mortals is every single person, we've got some kind of evidence of them existing, which is really, really exciting. So the people in today's episode, we know they were definitely around. We can't guarantee everything they did was real.
Yep.
But we know they definitely existed. Great. Do you know anything about the Fox sisters, Joe?
The Fox sisters, I think I know a few, maybe the more famous things about them. But I'll I'll let you fact check for me, because I don't want to be like, yeah, I know this person, they did all these things and they didn't. So
Brilliant. I love the story of the Fox sisters. So the Fox sisters were they were three sisters from around about New York in 1800s, and two of them claimed they could communicate with the dead. So they claimed they were talking to ghosts through taps and knocks and cracks and all those kinds of noises. And the third sister was basically like their stage manager. She basically ran the business. So it started off, it happened in their house first of all, where they were supposedly talking to somebody who said they were like, they died in the area and they were like buried on the grounds, and then all the neighbours were like, what? And eventually they ended up performing in like music halls to like 400 people.
Yeah, back then as well, that must be huge.
Do you know what I can't imagine? I can't imagine how these noises were heard in a theatre. Because I've been in really quiet theatres before, but like if I'm just listening for like taps.
Yeah.
Everybody just must have been holding their breath.
Yeah, like literally nothing at all. Or very close. No, you couldn't be very close because the stages must have been huge for 400 people.
Yeah, plus again, this is the 1800s, so there's no microphones.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You've got entirely relying acoustics.
Yeah. This is slowly turning into this must be some kind of magic. Like, this isn't. There's no tricks here.
I mean, even whether we believe or not, the sound thing's pretty cool.
It is pretty impressive, yeah.
So yeah, they basically, though, the reason the Fox sisters are considered so important is that they launched the spiritualist movement. Which became massive throughout America and Europe in the 1800s. And I'm pretty sure we've had loads of cue cards about different famous spiritualists. But the Fox sisters are who we have to thank/blame for that. They started it all with their clicks and taps and weird little cracking noises. Do you want me to slightly burst a bubble for you, Joe?
Ooh, this might be a bubble that's been bursted. I'm not too sure, but yeah, go ahead. Do
you know how they claimed they did the noises? Because one of the girls confessed and then retracted her confession. One of the girls was like, "Oh, we've been faking this, by the way," and then later on she went, "No, we haven't." That's what
I think I knew. I knew one of the sisters had like kind of outed the others.
But do you know how they did it?
No, I don't.
They were clicking bones in their feet.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I've got really crunchy ankles. My ankles and my hip clicks. So part of me's a bit like, I can see it. The other part of me's a bit like, how loud was it?
Yeah, exactly. And it must have been like, why are these people shuffling on stage, like rolling their ankles a little bit? It must have been so subtle.
This is the thing, that must have been a real skill though, right?
Yeah,
they had to have sat really still or I don't know, like there's something weird about the whole situation. But also really cool at the same time.
I think like with those people that have like developed like their way of bypassing an audience with like their own communication are like actually incredible. Like whether it's like, you know, it didn't actually happen or it wasn't like real like magic. It's like I can't remember. It might have been. I might be completely wrong here, but the Rosenberg couple.
Oh, is that the ones that had the
They
code? They were kind of like code reading. No, they had a code.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna stop
they
guessing.
would kind of face each other, and then they'd like communicate through. I think it was like slight like eye movements or something. I can't remember what it was, but
wow.
like all these things about making your own language is really cool. But like clicking your feet. That's
Clicking
like
your feet.
next level. That's impressive.
Yeah. Like they all sort of change stories all the time, so it's really, really unclear as to what actually happened or, you know, who was doing what or if they were speaking to spirits. But the key thing is that because of the Fox sisters, it sort of launched the careers of a whole wave of other people.
Yeah.
So whether we believe in them or not, a lot of like ghost hunters and you know, spiritualists and psychics and things kind of came off the back of that.
Cornerstones, yeah, awesome.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
It's a cool name as well. I like the name of the Fox sisters. That's quite catchy. It's a quite catchy stage name.
It sounds like a kind of goth band.
Yeah, it is cool.
Where their percussion is just their feet.
yeah.
Right, would you like somebody else that I'm pretty sure you will have heard of?
Oh yes, I'm intrigued. Yeah.
Have you heard of Marie Laveau?
I have heard. I have. This Marie Laveau, it's either someone based in France or New Orleans.
Yeah, so Marie Laveau was the voodoo queen of New Orleans.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I really love stories of Marie Laveau. She sounds like she was such a cool lady. She sounds like she was absolutely amazing. She was based in New Orleans in the, I want to say 1800s. I could be wrong on that one. And she started off as a hairdresser. And what she would do is, while she was doing people's hair, they would ask her, you know, just the way you talk to a hairdresser, you ask for advice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she would offer not just help and advice, but she'd also offer voodoo rituals and all kinds of potions and things like that. And she went on to actually become like a kind of community leader.
That's awesome. That's
for
so
all
cool.
kinds of people.
Yeah.
So even though we've got all the kind of like supernaturally mysterious stuff around voodoo and things like that, we also have someone who sounds like she was just like a badass.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like you sometimes build a bit of a rapport with your hairdressers, don't you? But like I would completely go off the chains if they like I had a voodoo one who was offering me rituals. I'd be like, okay, this is super cool.
And the cool thing is, she like built up her business over time. Like in the parlor she worked in, she built up her business over time, and then she got more prestigious clients. And then eventually it became like the voodoo was our whole business. And people would come and see her from all over the place. And she didn't just, because I think she started kind of just running her house at some point.
Yeah.
But then she ended up she had like buildings that she would like, you know, this is where she operated from. So she just sounds amazing.
Yeah,
and really entrepreneurial, but without the sort of, you know, when we talked about La Voisin, and she was a bit like, oh, dodgy. It doesn't really sound like Marie Laveau had that.
That was just so nice. And it sounds like New Orleans was like almost like a hot spot for like kind of like spiritual, wretched mortal candidates, that sort of thing. It sounds like a cool place to be.
It's absolutely, if I had a time machine, it would be one of my like bucket list places.
Go and have a look at, yeah.
New Orleans in the 1800s. But yeah, she was really cool. But there was lots of there's lots of folklore and stories around her as well that I've kind of just sort of, because she's become a bit of a legend. Some of the stories some of them are wild. So it's said that she would like, if people were asking for help and advice, she would speak to spirits for them. So she would speak to, depending on what your belief system is, she would speak to like Catholic saints or African gods and goddesses or spirits from all over the place. Because again, New Orleans was such like a mix of different cultures. I mean, it still is, but especially at that point in time. So she would speak to spirits from all different types of backgrounds and things.
It's like,
so she sounds like a cool lady.
She does sound like a very cool lady, yeah.
A lot of people believe that she can still grant you wishes. So a really popular place to go in New Orleans is where she's buried. And some people, we're not condoning this, nobody go and do this, but some people believe that if you go and chip a bit off her tomb and mark a cross and make a wish, that it'll come true. And then they come back and put a circle around the cross if it came true. So there's almost like a sort of like, document of
wishes,
granted wishes.
Yeah, that's so cool.
On our tomb.
Yeah.
Which sounds absolutely wild.
That's such a cool vibe compared to sort of like pennies in a fountain. Like you kind
absolutely.
That's a kind of cool way to do it.
I'm slightly worried that one day there'll be very little left of our tomb, so maybe we shouldn't all go and chip bits off of it.
Yeah, if your wish is really, really important,
yes,
make the journey.
Just wish from a distance.
Yeah, exactly.
But she seems like she was such a cool lady, and again, the folklore and stories around her, some of them are wild, and we don't have enough time in this podcast to go into them all, but so it's definitely somebody worth googling. And would you like a wee bonus story, Joe?
Of course, yes. Bonuses, these are the best.
Great. So our bonus one today isn't somebody who communicated with the dead, it was someone who just communicated with people who were going to be dead. We're going to look at plague doctors.
Okay. Yeah, this is a cool bonus.
So the plague doctors were prominent in two periods in history. So they were prominent in the 14th century, which is when I'm pretty sure that was like the Black Death, which was bubonic plague. Okay. And in the 17th century, I might be getting this wrong, but I think it was pneumonic plague. So it was more to do with your lungs. Sure. So they did turn up like twice in history, and the image we are all familiar with was the latter. So big beaky masks and stuff like that. Do you know what was in the mask?
I kind of like maybe something for like the smell, like some kind of herb, maybe, like that would be my guess.
So they had the reason that plague doctors wore those big giant masks was, as you said, they're stuffed with herbs, flowers, things that generally smell nice, because they believed in I'm going to say it wrong, miasma, and they thought that's what was causing these plagues at the different times, which it feels like they're kind of half right, because we know, germs bad, but it wasn't bad air that was causing the plague. Like, oh, this air's so bad in here, that's how you got the plague. But basically, plague doctors were almost like the original experts in PPE. Yeah. So they were covered head to toe. Absolutely everything was covered, so that they wouldn't catch it. But quite a lot of them caught it.
I would imagine so. Yeah. No. Yeah. The first thing that comes into my head about that mask having flowers and herbs in it, I get really bad hay fever. I think that would just it would just be like a wild sort of thing to be put into.
I think that would rule you out of being a plague doctor pretty quickly, Joe. I think they're like, no, you can't wear the mask.
Looking good.
There's lots of really great stories about individual plague doctors. My favourite one is I'm going to be the typical Scottish person and tell a story from Edinburgh. There was a plague doctor called George Ray who charged wild amounts of money to Edinburgh Council to be like, oh yeah, I'll solve your plague for you. Yeah. And they were like, sure. And they hired him for all this mad amount of money. And he stayed alive. Like all the plague doctors they'd hired before him, he did not die, and he did a good job. And then when he was like, "Can you pay me now?" they were like, "No, because we thought you were going to die." Oh, no. I think he did eventually get paid, but I think it took like a very long amount of time to get paid, because they were like, "We genuinely thought you'd die."
Yeah, we didn't assume this would happen. Like, what's going on?
We didn't think you would actually stay alive. But that's probably one of my favourite plague doctor stories.
I'm gonna have to like read up.
Defied the odds.
I'm gonna have to read up on plague doctors. I kind of thought of them as just like a character, and like didn't really put the pieces together as in like there were multiple of them, and they probably all have different cool stories. So that's
because they would get hired to come to cities and things like that. And the reason I know this story is because I went on a tour in Edinburgh in an area where they took you like kind of underground and stuff, and they were like, oh, this is a really bad plague spot. But also they had like the full costume, and there is something, it really seemed really oppressive. Yeah. Like, it seemed really, really scary having to be in all this like leather and stuff.
It is all leather as well, is it?
Yeah.
The whole thing.
And everything's covered, literally everything, so that nothing can get in, but obviously like stuff did.
Yeah.
And I can only assume it's when you were getting changed and stuff like that. I think if we all remember during COVID, if you went out and you came back, you kind of were like getting changed and putting stuff in the washing machine straight away.
It's one of those things where it's like you have your protection on, and then you start like just touching everything, and then you're like, when you're taking it off, you're like, I'm safe.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that was definitely what was happening there, and definitely not bad air.
Yeah. Probably not.
That was the Eerie World's Rogues Gallery podcast. Thank you for joining me, Joe. It's been great telling stories all day.
It's been awesome. And it literally just clocked in my head that the people that we've been talking out are going to be in the game. Like, literally just occurred to me now. And I'm like, okay, Plague Doctor. Like, that's one I need to pick up. Like, literally just like, okay, cool. That's going to be
The
super
Plague
exciting.
Doctor stuff looks so cool as well,
Yeah.
and Plague Doctors has got a really cool avatar as well that I think everyone's going to
Okay,
love.
cool. Yeah, Wretched Mortals
So-
is going to be wicked.
There's so much to look forward to here, and I think, as we said earlier, the great thing about the images for these cards is they kind of suggest stories. So get them flipped over and read
Yeah,
the full
exactly. If
story
you
while
grab
you're
one,
playing.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you everyone for listening. And yeah, bye.
See you later.